The Gemara in Masechtas Megillah, Zayin Amud Aleph, 7, Zayin Amud Beis, 7b, tells the story. Well, first it says the halacha that Rava said that on Purim a person is obligated mechayiv inish lebesumi bepuria ad yado bein arad Haman and Mordechai. That on Purim a person is obligated lebesumi to drink till he's not able to differentiate between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. And the Gemara goes on to relate a story that Rabba and Reb Zera got together to have a Purim Suda, to have a Purim party. And they said l'chaim, they drank, and Rabba stood up, v'shachtel Reb Zera. He stood up and he shechted, he slaughtered Reb Zera. According to the simple reading, he literally killed him. Others understand it to mean figuratively, that there's a number of interpretations. The Amiroyim, the rabbis of the Talmud, they weren't just scholars, they were also holy people. So he had the power he brought him back to life. Rabba brought Reb Zera back to life. The next year came around. Rabba invited Reb Zera, you want to come again? And Reb Zera says, Loi b'chol shana v'shana misrachish nisa. We can't rely on miracles, so I don't want to come to your party, I'll go somewhere else. So Rava's the initial din of the Gemara, Rava lived around the year 270. So about 1,000 years later, the Rishonim, they have a three-way machlokes, a three-way dispute as to how to understand the words of the Gemara. I'm not going to say names because there's a whole bunch of different opinions with a bunch of different names. So one approach is that the Gemara brought Rava said his initial din that a person should drink on Purim. The Gemara brought the story to show us that it's not such a good idea. Take it easy. The halacha was cancelled out. A second approach was no. We see from the story that he invited him back to come and have a party the next year. So obviously we don't assume that people are going to take it that far. And Rava said his halacha, that the person is obligated to drink, and that's it. And then there's a little bit of a in-between opinion, which says that no, the Rava said is that then a person has to drink ad yado bein arad Haman and Mordechai, which is obviously a lot of l'chaim, and the story was brought to tell you that you shouldn't drink that much, but a little bit still you should drink. Now the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, his years were 1488 to 1575. So he was the Beis Yosef. He was kind of the time where we went from the Rishonim to the Achreinim. So they say when he wrote his commentary, the Beis Yosef, we view him as a Rishon. When he wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he's referred to as the Mechaber, the author. He wrote the base of the Shulchan Aruch. He's from the first of the Achreinim. My father-in-law is not going to be happy that I am taking his Shulchan Aruch over here, and it's. I want to show you the page a little bit. Okay, here we go. So you see a little bit of the Shulchan Aruch. So we're now going to go and give you a little bit of a tour. The middle over here, so is the Mechaber and the Ramah. We'll get to their history in a second. Mechaber, that's the main Shulchan Aruch, and then in the Rashi letters you have the Ramah, and on the side over here to the right you have the Taz, and then you have the Magen Avram, and then on the side over here, all the way in the corner, you have the Yad Ephraim. So we're going to talk about those commentaries. So the Mechaber, in his Shulchan Aruch, I mentioned that there's a three-way machlokes. He seems to go like the first opinion that says that no person's chayiv to drink, ad yado ben Haman and Mordechai. That's it. Rabban and Abzeda took it a little too far. They went beyond that, but we don't assume that people are going to go that far. The Ramah, so that's the Mechaber Rabbi Yosef Cairo. The Ramah, who lived a little later, the Ramah Reb Moshe Isilish, his years were 1520 to 1572. He says that he takes that third opinion. He says a person should drink a little bit, but he shouldn't go all the way out or Haman and Mordechai. And he suggests you should drink a little bit until you become a little drowsy and you fall asleep, and kind of that's the approach of the Ramah. Now, what begs to be understood is what's this concept of mixing Order Haman and Baruch Mordechai? I mean, we want to say that Mordechai should be cursed, God forbid, and Haman should be blessed. What's that idea? So I'm going to quote to you three explanations, three of the earliest explanations that I found. The first comes from the Magen Avram, which I showed you on the side. He's one of the basic commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. His name was Avram Gambiner. His years were 1635 to 1682. He says Order Haman and Baruch Mordechai is the amount you should drink, that you shouldn't be able to calculate, that Order Haman has the same gematria, numerical value, as Baruch Mordechai. So, not knowing the difference between Order Haman and Baruch Mordechai is that you shouldn't know that they're be able to calculate that they have the same gematria. The Taz, the Turei Zov, also one of the basic commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, Rav David Halevi, Siegel, years were 1586 to 1667. So he says that, this is a little bit of a beyond the simple level of interpretation. He says that Order Haman represents the miracle that the Jewish people as a whole were saved from the cursed Haman. Baruch Mordechai represents the miracle that happened beyond the Jewish people being saved, that Mordechai became the vice president. So there were two miracles. So Order Haman and Baruch Mordechai is not that we should mix up, blessed Mordechai and cursed Haman. No. Order Haman refers to the miracle that happened to the Jewish people. And Baruch Mordechai represents the miracle that happened to Mordechai beyond that miracle. So we're supposed to drink to celebrate these two concepts. Not just that our lives were saved, but also more than that, there was the Baruch Mordechai, the Jewish people were exalted, not just saved. Then a third approach goes like this. This is attributed to the Yad Ephraim. He's not one of the basic commentaries, but in many of the editions of the Shulchan Aruch, he comes on he's one of the commentaries that are there. His name was Rabbi Ephraim Margolis. His years were 1762 to 1828. So this Piddush is often attributed to the Sfas Emes, the second Gerer Rebbe, which lived 100 years later. But I recently saw it in the Yad Ephraim, which probably the Sfas Emes was not very big with Achronim. So his interpretation is not that we should mix up cursed Haman. He says cursed Haman is cursed Haman and blessed Mordechai. It's not that we should mix them up. We should drink so much but before you reach that point. We don't want to obviously mix up Haman and Mordechai, but we want to drink so much until before you reach that point, which is an interesting interpretation. So this is part 1 of the Ad Yoda, and hopefully next week we'll get to part 2. We'll understand the concept according to on a deeper level.